That feeling you can't shake, the knowing that someone is thinking of you, yet your phone stays dark. Why? What powerful, hidden force keeps a person connected to you in their mind, yet completely silent in reality? It's a specific quiet agony. To sense his presence in your atmosphere, to feel the echo of a connection, and yet be met with absolute stillness. You check for a notification, a sign, anything. Nothing. The silence becomes a presence itself, louder than any words he could ever speak. He is there in your thoughts, but he is not here in your life. This creates one of relationships' most painful puzzles. Why would a man hold you in his mind, but never in his hands? We are taught that love is action. That care inevitably leads to contact. But the human spirit is far more complicated than that. A person can miss you with a profound depth, ache with a genuine longing, and still remain perfectly, utterly still. That chasm between feeling and action, that silence, holds a profound secret about the inner workings of the masculine psyche. His quiet isn't necessarily a sign of closed heart. Often, it is the sound of an internal war. Perhaps his stillness isn't indifference at all. Maybe it is a shield, a defense against what he fears most, being truly seen, feeling out of control, or confronting the unhealed parts of himself that your very existence reflects back to him. You see, the real conflict isn't with you. It's within the fortress of his own self. For many men, love is a terrifying prospect. It is both a deep desire and a profound threat. His heart may burn for connection, but his instincts scream for self-preservation. He doesn't reach out, not because the bond means little, but because it means everything. And in his hidden logic, silence feels like safety. What if his distance is not a rejection of you, but a retreat from his own vulnerability? What if his quiet is not absence, but fear disguised as control? You may have been misreading his silence as a lack of interest, when in truth, it is the audible symptom of a man grappling with his inner chaos. Beneath every unmade call lies a fierce battle between the part of him that wants to protect his pride and the part that just wants to hear your voice. So the core question shifts. It's not simply, why doesn't he call? The deeper, more revealing question is, what is that silence protecting him from? And that is where we begin our journey into the hidden chambers of his psychology, where affection and fear can wear the exact same mask. When a man thinks of you but doesn't act, it's rarely because he doesn't care. Sometimes, it's because caring shakes him to his very foundation. And until he learns to face that tremor, he remains a captive in his own self-made prison of quiet. But what if this dynamic isn't solely about him? In every silence, there are two participants, the one who is silent and the one who listens to that silence. To truly understand why he doesn't reach out, we must also explore what his stillness triggers within you. We live in an age of constant connection, yet we often experience deep emotional disconnection. A single tap, one brief message is all it would take. And yet he doesn't. He hesitates. He withdraws. You wait, hoping the stillness will break, but it remains intact, a wall between you. Why? The answer lies not in the external world of technology, but in the internal labyrinth of the psyche, where desire, fear, and identity collide. When a man thinks of you, but does not call, you are witnessing the tension between his conscious intention and his unconscious resistance. Love does not originate in the logical mind. It stirs in the unconscious, that vast territory where our repressed emotions and hidden truths reside. When a man develops deep feelings for a woman, she often awakens more than simple affection. She stirs the dormant parts of his soul, his childhood wounds, his buried anxieties about rejection, his unspoken need for acceptance, all rise to the surface in her presence. She becomes a mirror, and that mirror terrifies him because when he looks into it, he doesn't just see her. He sees a reflection of everything he has yet to resolve within himself. Many men fear this depth of emotional intimacy more than they fear being alone. It threatens their carefully constructed identity as the strong one, the self-reliant one, the man who does not need. So he pulls back, not because the feeling has vanished, but because the feeling is too potent, too real. This is the hidden dilemma, rooted not in romance, but in fundamental psychology. Our culture has conditioned men to view emotional expression as a weakness and vulnerability as a loss of power. They learn to suppress their feelings rather than share them, to conquer challenges rather than connect with them. So when love demands genuine exposure, they instinctively resist. He is torn between two powerful forces: the life force that pulls him toward union with you, and the death force that urges him to stay safe, detached, and in command. But this control is a mirage. His silence is not power, it is paralysis. It is the unconscious mind defending itself against the transformation that deep love requires. To love profoundly is to be changed, and to the ego, change can feel like a kind of death. A man can be caught between two existences, the one he presents to the world, and the one that secretly yearns for something more meaningful. He thinks of you in his solitary moments. He might revisit old photographs. He hears the memory of your laughter, but he convinces himself that silence is strength. That detachment is a sign of maturity. And so he hides behind a veil of logic, pretending the distance signifies apathy, when in reality, it is simply fear wearing a rational disguise. This is not just his personal struggle. It is a modern affliction of the soul, the fragmentation between what we feel and what we dare to express. So the real inquiry is no longer, why doesn't he call? The more penetrating question is, why does he believe he cannot? What unconscious narrative has convinced him that being vulnerable will lead to his destruction? What part of him is still terrified of being truly witnessed by the one person who already seems to see right through him? Because every silence has an origin point, a root buried deep beneath the surface. And that root is the part of him that still believes love is a risk he is not equipped to survive. But if silence is his unconscious defense mechanism, what impact does it have on you, the one who is waiting? And what invisible power does this pattern hold over two hearts entangled in its web? You tell yourself to stop wondering. You attempt to persuade your heart that silence equals indifference. Yet, despite your best efforts, a part of you remains listening for the sound that never arrives. The quiet between you grows denser, more significant than any conversation ever could. What neither of you fully grasps is that this silence, his withholding and your anticipation, is not a vacuum. It is an active, shaping force. What you resist not only persists, it often grows in strength. The more he resists the impulse to connect, the more powerful the thought of you becomes in his mind. What he represses starts to haunt him. The message he doesn't send transforms into a ghost that follows him into his dreams, his work, his solitude. But this haunting is a two-way street. Your mind, too, can become consumed by the lack of resolution. You begin to interpret silence as if it were a complex language, analyzing its texture, its duration, its subtle shifts. You imagine hidden intentions in every empty space. This is where the shadow of love begins to form, because silence, when left unexplained, becomes a story. And when a human mind lacks concrete answers, it will invent them. The brain has a low tolerance for ambiguity. It craves resolution, even if that resolution is painful. So, your mind constructs narratives. He's found someone else. He's playing a game. He's scared. He's indifferent. Each story offers a temporary solace from the turmoil of not knowing. But it also ensnares you deeper in a cycle of obsessive analysis. Meanwhile, he is trapped in a similar loop. His pride assures him that not calling maintains his control, but his deeper psyche knows better. Control, in this context, is an illusion. What he's actually controlling is his own expression, the very part of him that could find healing if it were allowed to speak. But repression always demands a toll. So he seeks distractions. He goes out with friends. He buries himself in projects. He scrolls through endless content. But beneath every distraction lies the persistent hum of avoidance. Every small act of silence becomes a form of emotional self-sabotage. The consequence of this dynamic is significant. Both of you become prisoners of your own projections. You project your fears, your hopes, your interpretations onto his silence. And he projects his shame, his fear of not being enough, onto your perceived expectations. Neither of you is truly engaging with the other anymore. You are both communicating through the thick filters of your own unconscious minds. This is how many contemporary relationships deteriorate. Not because love dies, but because communication collapses under the immense weight of ego and fear. The paradox of our hyperconnected era intensifies this. A message left on read can carry the emotional weight of a deep wound. A silence can feel like a profound rejection. And yet, underneath it all, a deeper process is at work. His silence isn't just about you. It's about him. It's about his unresolved relationship with his own vulnerability. The boy inside the man who once reached for love and was told, directly or indirectly, that it was too much. Too intense, too soon, too emotional. And your waiting isn't just about him. It's about you. The part of you that once loved so openly that you promised yourself you would never be that exposed again. So you both stand on opposite sides of the same invisible barrier, each longing for connection, each waiting for the other to make the first move, each afraid of what that move will reveal. And the longer this continues, the more that barrier solidifies, becoming both invisible and seemingly unbreakable. This is the unseen consequence, not merely loneliness, but a kind of psychological fragmentation. Two souls mirroring each other's deepest fears, all while believing they are entirely separate. Humans are like creatures seeking warmth, yet fearing the prick of closeness. So they shift nearer, then farther, in a constant dance, never quite realizing that the pain of distance can sometimes be greater than the temporary discomfort of intimacy. And this is precisely where you find yourself, standing in that delicate balance between the desire for closeness and the instinct for self-protection. But what if the only way to end this suffering isn't to wait, to chase, or to decode his silence, but to fundamentally break the pattern itself? What if the only genuine act of love remaining is a quiet rebellion? Rebellion doesn't always look like anger or drama. Sometimes it is a serene and almost sacred act. It begins the moment you cease waiting for the apology, the explanation, or the call that will never come. It begins the moment you reclaim the power that his silence has been slowly draining from you. You see, when a man withdraws from you, it isn't always a conscious, malicious choice. Often, it is an unconscious process. But whether it's fear, pride, or unhealed wounds guiding him, the outcome is identical. You're left suspended in a state of uncertainty. And uncertainty is emotional quicksand. This rebellion is not against him. It is against the emotional paralysis that his silence creates within you. It is a rebellion against your own conditioning, that internal voice that equates love with waiting or suffering with proof of depth. What you truly need is not his closure, but your own wholeness. Imagine for a moment that his silence is a mirror, not a reflection of your value, but of your own unhealed need for external validation. The part of you that still believes love must be earned through patience, perfection, or persistence. That mirror doesn't deceive. It shows you exactly where your personal power is leaking away. And once you see it clearly, you can begin the rebellion. The first act of rebellion is detachment. Not the cold, hollow kind, but the authentic kind that states, I honor what we shared, but I refuse to abandon myself waiting for someone who has already emotionally departed. This is not indifference. It is self-respect. It is the art of no longer negotiating with silence. The second act is redirection. The mental and emotional energy that was once devoted to overthinking, checking, and hoping, you now turn inward. You begin to nourish your mind, your body, your spirit. You create. You move. You breathe deeply again. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But many people never get there because they are too busy seeking emotional validation from outside sources. When you redirect your focus back to your own evolution, you start to feel something rare, a peace that does not depend on anyone's presence or absence. And here lies the great paradox. That is exactly when your energy undergoes a fundamental shift. When you stop waiting for him to call, you alter the very frequency of your being. You stop emitting a signal of need and start radiating a presence of self-sufficiency. People sense that. They may not understand it intellectually, but they feel it instinctively, like a shift in a magnetic field. You may begin to wonder why you're no longer reacting, why the silence no longer seems to affect you, why your energy feels different, calmer, more enigmatic, unperturbed. And in that shift, the entire dynamic transforms. But this is not about manipulation or revenge. It is about transcendence. The final act of rebellion is forgiveness. Not for him, but for yourself. For all the moments you pleaded with the universe for answers. For the nights you stared at your phone, hoping for a signal that never appeared. For the times you questioned your own worth because someone else failed to recognize it. Forgiveness is liberation. It frees you from the psychic chain that binds your identity to another person's choices. In that freedom, you stop asking, "Why didn't he call?" Instead, you ask, "Why did I wait so long for someone who never learned to speak my language?" Silence is not a puzzle to solve, but a message to respect. The truth is, silence is not a code you need to crack. It is a message you need to honor. It is life's way of redirecting you toward people who do not make you question your fundamental value. And when you rise, not with bitterness, but with crystalline clarity, you embody something that people find both intimidating and irresistibly magnetic: emotional independence. It is the quiet strength of a person who no longer needs to chase love because they have become a source of it. This is the paradox of power. It often flows to those who stop begging for it. So if he ever does return, you will meet him with calm eyes, not anger. You will listen, but you will not absorb his energy. You will care, but you will not collapse. Because the rebellion was never about him. It was about remembering who you were before his silence ever tried to make you forget. Imagine looking into a mirror one morning. The same mirror that once reflected your anxiety, your waiting, your confusion. But now it reflects something else entirely. Peace. Not because you finally received the message you were waiting for, but because you finally understood that the silence itself was the message. That's when you realize he didn't just stop calling. The universe was preventing you from wasting your precious energy on something that was no longer in alignment with your growth. You see, there comes a pivotal moment when a person no longer requires closure from the external world because they have found it within themselves. That is the final stage of transformation. And it's the stage most people never reach because they keep mistaking attachment for love and obsession for care. People become enlightened not by fantasizing about light, but by making their darkness conscious. And the darkness in this situation, the one you have been facing, is the silence itself. The unanswered calls, the absence of explanation, the emotional ambiguity. These are not merely personal trials. They are mirrors reflecting a universal truth about human connection. Most people don't leave because they stop caring, but because they cannot face themselves through you any longer. His silence was never truly about you. It was about him, about his own unconscious fears of intimacy, his unhealed wounds, his inability to handle emotional weight without feeling like he was drowning. This is a classic projection, when someone casts what they cannot face within themselves onto the person who makes them feel it most intensely. You became his mirror, too honest, too real, too revealing. And so he turned away. But in doing so, he unintentionally became your mirror, too. Because through his silence, you discovered the part of you that still needed external validation. The part that couldn't rest in stillness without questioning its own worth. And when you face that shadow without resentment or self-blame, something extraordinary happened. You became whole. This is the hidden magic of pain. It transmutes longing into wisdom. The very experience that once shattered you becomes the catalyst for your becoming. The process of becoming your true self. Not the self shaped by someone else's affection or absence, but the self born from the ashes of your own heart's trials. You start to perceive love differently. You stop mistaking constant availability for true devotion and fleeting attention for genuine intimacy. You realize that silence isn't merely an absence. It is information. It tells you who possesses the emotional capacity to truly meet you and who is merely passing through the corridors of your life story. And that realization changes everything, because now you no longer pursue what withdraws from you. You no longer interpret distance as a challenge to prove your worth. Instead, you begin to honor distance as a form of guidance, a sacred nudge directing you back to your own center. This is when freedom begins to feel tangible. You stop replaying conversations that never happened. You stop assigning profound meaning to every delayed reply or every shift in tone. You stop needing to be chosen because you have consciously chosen yourself. You finally understand that love is not about possession. It is about the recognition of souls that can meet without fear, of hearts that can communicate even in the quiet. And, ironically, once you stop needing him to return, life begins to bring you everything you once desperately begged for. Peace, clarity, self-respect, even new love. But now you receive these gifts without a trace of desperation, because you have learned the most sacred truth of all, that no one can complete you. They can only meet you where you have already arrived, whole and intact. This is not cynicism. This is awakening. It is the moment you realize that the man who didn't call was never meant to complete your story. He was meant to reveal it. His silence wasn't a punishment. It was an initiation. Every unanswered message, every moment of confusion, every night of restless thought, it all served a purpose. To strip away illusion. To awaken your discernment. To teach you that you were never meant to chase love, but to embody it. And when you finally stand on the other side of that understanding, the silence that once tormented you becomes sacred. You no longer fill it with anxiety. You fill it with a profound awareness. You begin to hear your own voice again. In that stillness, you rediscover your own rhythm. The sound of your own thoughts no longer frightens you. The quiet between text messages no longer defines your worth. You have returned to yourself. And there is nothing more powerfully attractive than that. Because here is a truth few will ever tell you. The moment you stop seeking validation from the one who withdrew is the moment he begins to feel your absence, not as a punishment, but as a presence. He feels the energy he once took for granted, now firmly rooted in your independence. And it unsettles him, not because you are gone, but because you are finally undeniably whole. And if he ever does return, you will not be the same person he remembers. You will listen, you may even smile, but you will know, deep in your bones, that this story has already fulfilled its purpose. Because sometimes the most powerful closure doesn't arrive in a flood of words. It arrives in the quiet, steady act of becoming. So if he thinks of you but doesn't call, let him. If he remains silent, let him. Your role was never to awaken his voice. It was to awaken your own. And perhaps that is the most beautiful resolution of all. Not the return of the one who left, but the triumphant return of the person who finally, fully came home to herself. That is the moment when silence stops causing pain and finally begins to heal. And if this journey back to yourself resonated with you, please support the channel by liking this video and following Winds of Thought for more explorations into the human psyche.